So in this second half of the class, what we're going to do, and once again, I advise everyone who is here to turn on your cameras, and if you have headphones, to turn on your speakers. If you don't have headphones, do not. PC, who are you? Identify yourself, please. Otherwise, I'll be forced to kick you out of the room. PC. And I'm counting 1. And I'm counting 2. PC, who are you?
Sent a message.
Oh, lovely.
She says, Nancy.
I look like donkey, no need no pigs. Nancy, Nancy who, honey? And you don't need your camera, but you do need a name. Okay, Nancy Picon, there we go. All right, so second, am I recording? Yes, I am. So, second half of the class, ideas that I wanted to talk to you about. Regarding your compositions, focusing on the wedding, the Solitary Reaper, your analysis of the romantic poem by Wordsworth. Again, remember, speaker and author are not the same. If you are retelling plot, that is the speaker, not the author, right? Remember that quotations are always a form for you to prove your point, right? To explain your point of view. So quotations are key, but those quotations are not self-explanatory. Unless you provide analysis with that quotation is pointless and useless. So provide analysis, explain why you quote, what you quote, right? Remember that you introduce quotations with a comma, right? That there are different instances of an overflow of feelings, comma, quotation mark, example, quotation, period, quotation marks. Remember, in English, not in Spanish, all punctuation goes inside the quotation marks. Next year in literary translation, in journalistic translation, I'll be saying exactly the opposite because you'll be translating into Spanish. In English, punctuation goes inside the quotation marks. Don't forget that. That is a recurrent mistake. Don't forget that, but also remember that this is English. In Spanish, it's different. Never, ever, absolutely ever say, this is the perfect example of. Oh, there are few things that bother me more in life than you saying that something is a perfect example of. To whom? When you say, we can see here a perfect, very good, wonderful, outstanding, brilliant example of, you are basically calling me stupid, calling your reader stupid. What if I don't see it? That is a perfect example to you, and chances are, let's face it, that example may be wrong. So it's not a perfect example. Probably it's a wrong example in the first place. But second, nothing is a perfect example of. I don't know who teaches you to say that something is a perfect example of. No perfect examples. Although I could say that saying this is a perfect example of is a perfect example of something that you cannot ever use. Is that clear? Should I ever read that you are writing, this is a perfect example of, oh, okay, you know. Never end in a quote. You know, never end a paragraph, I mean, in a quote. Usually, you know, as I said, I have just said, quotes are not self-explanatory. So if you say blah, 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 quote, where's your analysis? Where's your explanation? Where's your guiding me as a reader, right? Never ever end a paragraph in a quote. And on top of that, you should always include some sort of paragraph conclusion. So, you know, don't. Are we clear? Quoting convention, citing conventions, I should say. The titles of short stories and poems will be written between inverted commas. The titles of novels and plays will be used, well, you use italics for them. And if you're handwriting, underline them. Okay? Not the two, never the two. Short stories and poems, inverted commas, plays and novels, underlined or italics. Are we clear? Always retell plot using present tenses. Okay? When I say plot in the broadest of senses, if you're retelling the action of a poem, you use present tenses. And what if I want to make a past reference? Present perfect. Okay. I think I have said introduce your quotes with a comma, not a colon. Authors usually go in opposition. The Solitary Reaper, comma, inverted comma, by William Wordsworth, comma, all right? If you say The Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth, that means that there is a Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth and another Solitary Reaper by William Saroyan and another Solitary Reaper by William Badenes. Don't ever call me William Badenes, I hate that. Okay, include a title for your compositions too. What do you want to say? That is your title. And the title of your composition cannot be the title of the poem. Because guess what? William Wordsworth stole that title for you. Okay, so the title of my composition is going to be The Solitary Reaper. And then, of course, yes, it will be The Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth because there is another Solitary Reaper, the title of a composition by Nahuel Angulo. I'm just reading your name, not that you used that title. Is that clear? Syntax. Avoid comma splices, right? That is, I write a proposition, a part of a sentence, and then comma, and another subordinate or coordinate clause. No, avoid comma splices. Look it up. Ask your grammar teachers. I don't know. Never separate your subject and verb with a composition, with a comma, sorry, unless you have an apposition. And never separate your verb and your direct object with a comma. Do not use so many commas. Why? What's the thing with a comma? Don't use a comma. Annoying. Careful with agreement. careful with collocations, okay? Use the dictionary of collocations. Careful with wordiness. I know that you adore to say that it is important in this outstanding work of literary intellect. Say poem. P-O-E-M, poem. Okay? I know that in language you have been obsessed for years now, to reach a quota, to reach a number of words. Okay? Well, forget that. Unlearn that. I do not care for. It is my clear understanding that the author of this incredible piece of prose, short story, okay, cut the bull. I do not care for you writing 7,000 words when all you need to say is poem or short story, okay? It is not a piece of literary work. It is what it is, okay? So, why? Because if you do it like that, then we can get your ideas more clearly, all right? And I've written over and over, wordy, 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 wordy. Do not use elision marks, the 3 dots at the beginning or end of a quote, okay? In the middle, I understand. Not the beginning, not the end, okay? Use Times New Roman 12, double-spaced, for clear, crystal clear, neat, lovely presentation. Okay? I don't care for your Arial. I don't care for your Calibri. I don't care for your Comic Sans. Use Times New Roman 12. I don't care for your Baskerville or Garamond either. Times New Roman 12. That's standard. Use that. And of course, just to finish the section on things that I read in the Solitary Reaper, Common Mistakes, I want to stress your composition organization, okay? The inverted pyramid for your introductory paragraph. Then every paragraph has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Always give me a conclusion so that I know that we're finishing, okay? We strive to give everything an introduction, a middle, and an end, okay? Okay. So that is all I have to say about the Solitary Reaper. I'm going to take 2 minutes to talk about the wedding nail, the composition that you had to write about the 3 papers or sources that I had you read. Only 3 people did what you were supposed to do. 3 people out of over 20. What do I mean? What you had to do, Maria Jose Frutero, you were the first one, and I was delighted. You know, I read 10 papers, and everyone was writing their lovely interpretations of the wedding nail as a dark romantic or a gothic short story, right? But then in comes number 10, Miss Frutero, and she said, well, if we consider the 3 sources that we had to read, these sources have positive or negative points, or adequate or inadequate points, etc. And then I thought, oh, somebody came to class, because that was it. That's what I wanted. The rubric was these 3 sources contain ideas that are right and ideas that are wrong regarding a Gothic understanding of the wedding knell. And it was Ms. Frutero, Ms. Vitali, the very last one on the list, and a third person. So I am so sorry for you in the middle. You also did a very good job. I don't remember your name. Of course, I graded all your papers, and because I was going to say this to you, I decided that there was no point in me saying, "Hey, lovely what you wrote," but you didn't. You wrote off the topic. Okay, I graded you because in future, if you write something off the topic, I mean, you may be graded, but it will be a failure. So read what you have to do, okay? Read what you have to do. What I wanted was you to read the 3 sources and say, okay, this is appropriate and this is not appropriate. All right? Okay, good. Are we clear? Do we have any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Josefina, you want to say something? Oh no, I saw you reaching out. You were reaching out for a pen. Any question? Anyone?
Yes, I have a question regarding format.
Yes, Micaela, go.
I have a question because you and Nadia didn't correct the same things. For instance, in one of my compositions, you asked me to write the date in the English format. So first the month, then the day, the year,
Yes.
and you cross out my email address.
Yes.
But Nadia, in the first assignment, asked me to write my email address.
Yes.
So I don't know about that. How should we put all the information at the beginning of the?
Okay.
Because
are you writing to me or for me or for her?
Okay.
That should be your quick answer. Are you writing for me to grade your paper or for her to? If she wants the email, give her your email. I don't want it.
Okay.
I don't need it. But that is okay. And this is also a very important lesson for
Because
you.
in the
Yes.
virtual classroom, in the keys to write the essay writing, it says that we should provide all the information, and the email address, for example, is one thing that is mentioned there.
Sure. If she asks for it, give her your email. I don't want it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But and it is, and this is a good lesson for your professional life. Gear your composition to whoever you're writing for, and bear that in mind. That is something nice to do. I'm writing for Professor Deranesian. She wants the email address. Oh, there it is. I'm writing for Professor Balenes. Oh, he doesn't want it. There you go. Don't include it. It's not that hard. It's just focus on who you're writing for. There are no, in this sense, even though we do have style guides and the like, there are always nuances and differences and things that one person wants and the other person doesn't want. In your case, when in your heading, that I would prefer inside the body and not outside, where you place your last name and the page number, then you include name, chair, which is Introduction to English Literature Group 1, Professor Badenes or Professor Badenes and Professor Deranesian, or Professor Deranesian if you're writing only for her, and the date. And that's all I want. Double space, times your Roman 12. That way, 1 inch mark, 2.5 centimeters margins. That way you make me happy,
Okay.
I would say that Professor Badenes is quite easy to please.
Aren't I?
So am I. I include the email address because I have had problems in which you don't name the file properly, and then once it happened that everything got erased from the virtual classroom, and because I had the email address, I got relaxed and said, well, I can return the paper to its owner. Okay, so I really feel better with the email address. And another thing that we might ask you, I think for the term test, Guille, is the condición. Whether
Yes.
you are regular, promocional, or condicional, okay?
In that respect, if you write on a separate piece of paper, then you write, imagine, Micaela Di Santo, hyphen, or dash, promocional, regular, condicional, libre. All right? Just whichever of the four, just next to your name, or comma, and your status in the chair. All right? So, and speaking of the term test, name, by the way, always name your file with last, if you're writing for me at least, last name, hyphen, underscript, guion bajo, underscript, first name. For example, it's Camila Daniela Sosa, is it? As I cannot read your last name. So it will be lowercase Sosa, underscript, guion bajo, Camila. Or everything lowercase, Angulo, underscript, Nahuel. All right, Bonet, underscript, Sofia. Molina, underscript, Antonella. Everything lowercase. That's all we want. That's all. And if you do it like this, next year in literary translation and journalistic translation, if you're my students, you will have it like that. Okay, so having said that, term test. In the test next week, and if you have a double first name or double last name, I don't know, whoever, Picon Pertines, for example, then you leave a space. Picon, lowercase, Pertines with an N, because sometimes computers will not accept the ñ. Pertines, underscript, Nancy. Okay, Nancy, Susana, if you want, leaving spaces. Okay, but the key is between last name and first name, an underscript. So the test, you will have two exercises. The first one will be a text of which you will need to, it's a fragment of a realist novel, and 6 figures of speech provided, right? I don't know, personification, litotes, whatever, whichever, I don't care. But we will provide 6. You will need to find in the text 3. We give you 6, you find 3. Does that mean that in the text you will find the 6? No, I'm giving you 6. I don't know if you have 6, but you will need to give us 3. And you will say, for example, consonants that you don't have, but that's why I'm using that one. Consonants, colon. You provide the example where you see the consonants in the example, and then you say, you do not define it, but you explain why, or what that figure of speech, that rhetorical device is there for. Is it useful? Is it working?
The effect.
Is it important? Its effect, okay? Of 3 of that text, okay? Are we clear? That is the first exercise. The second exercise, you will have to choose between two writing topics, two composition topics. The first one will be one in which we provide a text, and you will have to find features of that, of a certain movement within that text, okay? As you did, for example, in the romantic poem for the composition practice, graded composition practice, okay, for practico, okay? You would say, this is a romantic poem because blah, 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 okay? But you will do it in the form of a composition, which means that you will provide an introduction, you will provide a development, and you will provide a conclusion. Are we clear? That is one of the two possibilities. And the other one will be compare and contrast to movements. I don't know, whichever movements. We will say which, but think, for example, I don't know, realism and naturalism, or Gothic and realism, or romanticism and Gothic, or I don't know, romanticism and naturalism, or romanticism and realism, or Gothic and, you know, choices are unlimited. Okay?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, Camilla.
First, as regards the activity number 1,
yes,
you said that we have to provide 3 rhetorical devices with a quote and an explanation. I couldn't listen what you want in the explanation.
The effect in the text of that figure of speech.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
Probably for Camila, it was it Camila?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe it was not clear that you have to identify 3 figures of speech in a fragment that Professor Badenes is going to provide for you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I will give you 6. You will need to find 3. But you should not provide anything else that you see. Like, oh, this is an auditory image. Oh, that was not part of the plan. I didn't want you to give me an auditory image. I wanted to decide whether there was consonance, alliteration, anaphora, irony, paradox, or personification. Is that clear?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I have another question.
Yes.
As regards the second activity.
Yes.
We have to compare and contrast 2 movements.
Yes.
Do we have to do it in a format of an essay?
Yes,
or...
always. A composition. With an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. You know how to write a literary composition. So, yeah, there you have it. Any other? Sure. Any other questions regarding your term test next week?
Hello.
It will be, Antonella, is that you?
Yes.
1 second. Give me 1 second. Remember that it will start at 11. You will go to our virtual classroom, and you will go to the tag that says primer parcial obligatorio or something like that. Perhaps it says first term test. You will go there, you will download it, you will work, you will have 2.5 hours to work, and then you will upload it as any other activity. But be careful with the time. At 2.5 hours, it will time will stop and you will not be able to upload it. So beware of the time. Okay, Antonella, yes, to you.
Yes, as regards the compare and contrast, we have
Yes.
to compare two movements
Yes.
in a specific characteristics such as, I don't know, setting or how they are.
It depends on what points you want to discuss. That is entirely up to you.
Oh, okay.
Like I will compare and contrast, technically compare. Contrast is part of it. I don't know. I will provide the movements, but say the Gothic and realism. Okay, you will define your parameters.
Oh, okay. That was my doubt. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Speaking
Yes,
of,
I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Ornella, go.
Yes. Shall we include examples from the text that we have analyzed in class? Can we do that?
That'd be lovely. Your composition
Okay.
is yours and yours alone. So you can do whatever you want with it as long as it's good. Of course,
Okay.
be very careful not to plagiarize because we know and we will pursue legal actions. So all your ideas, make them your own. We want your ideas. We love your ideas. Well, most of your ideas. Some of your ideas we don't like, but that's okay. That's normal.
Guillermo, sorry,
yes,
I have a question.
Emilia, go.
Yes, in the term test, should we write our answers on the sheet that you provide us or write it on a new one?
You have, Nadia, remind me, they have to cut everything, but we give you an example on how to head it, etc. So you will have your test. Next page, you will have an example of how you could write your document. So you cut that, you paste it on a separate sheet of paper, you name that sheet of paper the way we want you to, and upload it, okay?
Yeah. Once you see it, you will see that it's very clear, so don't get stressed out because of that, okay?
So, but go all the way down, okay? So, I was talking about the Gothic a second ago, and remember that dark romanticism or the Gothic are kind of offsprings of romanticism, all right? You follow me there? Okay, so you think of, perhaps you have seen the movie Big Bang Theory. Have you? Yes, perhaps. The Big Bang Theory. Oh, come on, it's been running for like 10,000 years now. Okay, Young Sheldon is a spin-off of that. Okay, it's kind of the sort of the same story, a lot of the same features, one of the same characters, but different. Okay, the Gothic is a spin-off of Romanticism, okay? And Naturalism, somehow, is a spin-off of Realism, okay? So, I have 4 minutes, so let's do this quickly. Romanticism, you know all the features. Speaking of the language of the common man, overflow of feelings, recollections in tranquility, which you do in your studio, now walking up a hill. And all the other features that we have discussed, right? That is Romanticism. Romanticism gave way to Realism. Think of Realism as no, I don't want to zoom in again. Thank you. Realism was kind of obsessed with being objective, okay? Sort of like a newspaper is objective, or was at that time. So it was very detailed. Now, Realism talked about the middle classes and above, the upper middle classes, etc. Naturalism discussed the lives of the lower middle classes, okay? And so the problems of the upper middle classes were, and we have heard that, the drama of a broken teacup, finding a husband for a woman who couldn't hold property. The problems of the lower middle classes and naturalism were basically is how life determines or your own nature determines your future. If you have no education, if you have no good friends, if you have no access to money, well, you will end up badly. Oh, something else that naturalists did, they were very racist too, is that if you were Hispanic, you were probably a thief. If you were Jewish, you were probably stingy, right? Why? Because remember that this is right before the First and Second World War, around that time. Remember what racism did to the World War, right? To the world, right? In that respect, think that naturalism focuses on these human flaws and how you cannot avoid them, but at the same time, nature doesn't care, and there is no judgment, okay, on the part of the writer. It's like, this is like an experiment. I put a lot of people, see what happens, okay? So this is our class for today. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to write them in the questions chat or forum or whatever, right? It was lovely seeing you. We have to do this more often. So thank you very much. And we'll see you again. Best of luck next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.